Okay, good evening. Everybody ready to start the board meeting? Okay. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening. Thank you all for coming in. Happy New Year. I'd just like to go out of order, our usual order, and we'll conduct our business since our workshop was changed to a special meeting. Certified personnel. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of school, the Board of Education approves the resignations, terminations, leave of absence, position abolition, employment appointments, tenure appointments, and salary changes in accordance with applicable provisions of education law and civil service law as cited in the certified personnel attachment. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, non-certified personnel. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the resignation, termination, leave of absence, position abolition, employment appointment, tenure appointments, salary changes in accordance with applicable provisions of education law and civil service law as cited in the non-certified personnel attachments. Get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'd just like to take a moment. First of all, Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. This is a bittersweet appointment. We just picked a young man to replace our longtime bowling coach, but a dear friend, a longtime employee of the district. Harold Cooley passed away suddenly. You know, our hearts go out to his wife Pat and the family. You know, Pat was also an employee of the district. You know, the Cooleys, because you can't be a successful teacher, coach, aide, work with kids without the support of your spouse. You know, the Cooleys dedicated, you know, together close to 80 years to the district. They've been in the district for a long time. You know, I got to know Howard a little bit, you know, in the time. But the thing that impressed me the most is the outpouring from Howard's students. Harold. I said Howard, I'm sorry, I apologize. But Harold, one of the gentlemen that was putting up bleachers in, wasn't a bowler, didn't play baseball or football, but he had Harold as a math teacher, and I believe it was the 7th grade. And he was putting the new bleachers in the other day, and he said, "Hey, that was really sad about Coach Cooley." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, he was my teacher. I really didn't like math, but he was nice to me, and he always encouraged me." And I think, you know, I got to go down to practice. I was at some of the matches. You know, he was a steady, firm, quiet influence, and he really, really cared about kids. And so I think the nicest thing, we just appointed a young man I think Harold would be very proud of. I think he would want us to give him the same support that he gave to his players and his students. You know, so I'm going to wish Robert Scanoni luck. I've gotten to know Robert now over the last couple of years. You know, this is going to be a bittersweet season for the team, but I know the girls are pumped up. They want to, you know, they have quite a reputation to live up to in terms of the tradition of East Islip bowling, especially girls bowling. And, you know, I think later on in the year, they're going to do some nice tributes to a coach who really gave his all and who really epitomized DI pride. So I would just say, you know, our hearts go out to the Cooley family. You're in our thoughts and prayers. And I think let's get behind Coach Scanoni and let's keep the tradition rolling. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Nolan, thank you. And then just before your superintendent's report, we can announce the next Board of Ed meeting will take place. We're going to postpone it until later in the month, January 20th, Wednesday at 8 p.m. And then Mr. Nolan, if you can give us the superintendent's report.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know, you know, this is going, you know, we've had a lot of discussion about getting our secondary kids back into school full-time. I say this very cautiously and carefully, because we are in the middle of a public health crisis. But, sometimes when things seem darkest, it's the time to plan for better days. A lot has gone in this year to, trying to keep education going under very difficult circumstances. And this is as of tonight, and as, President Carney said, we moved the meeting to the 21st because, this is a fluid situation. But what we're looking to do is to return our middle school and high school students full-time February 1st. We're gonna work out and we're gonna send out the details to you by Friday. But what we're looking to do is also offer options for students to go virtual in 5-week increments. The dates would be, we'll notify you on how to notify us. And then if you're not comfortable coming back to school February 1st, you could opt to go virtual until the beginning of March. And then at that time, you'll get a chance to either re-up virtual if you're not comfortable coming back, or you could, opt to go continue virtual till the beginning of April. Again, we are seeing a spike in COVID-19, and I am going to, right at this point, appeal to the community because we have had to, we've had instances where we've had to quarantine classrooms, students, and it kind of pains me to say this, but I'm going to be honest. We're getting instances where people are not feeling well and they are still coming to school. We have instances where people have traveled and are not following the government regulations for quarantining. We've had cases where people were being tested and returning before the test results came in, or exposed in their household but still being sent to school. Ladies and gentlemen, we've all had to sacrifice. This has not been easy. This has been a long road. And we want the kids back in school. I wish you could have we had a videotape of the discussion we just had. It's the discussion that's been, passionate and heated. We all want the kids back in school. And we are trying to find the safest, correct date to do that. Because we know the longer they're not in school, that's detrimental to them also. I've been very proud of the students and staff. People are wearing their masks, they're being safe. We have shields. We're going to begin to prepare the middle school and high school for February 1st reopening. And again, if we are forced to adjust because of, conditions, we will. But we're confident. We're confident that we can do this, and we are confident that the best place for kids is in school. Because we see it. When they're in school wearing their masks, they seem to be a lot safer. We tested 722 people and only one came back positive. When you see them outside, the days they're not in school and they're on the corner with their masks down, running around, riding their bicycles, we know the safest place for kids is in school. Before COVID hit, we knew the time from 2 in the afternoon to 5 in the afternoon was a tough time for high school kids because they weren't at school. If they weren't involved in something, an after-school activity, those 3 hours were, a dangerous time for teenagers. So again, we will be sending out a Parent Square Friday with details, but as of right now, we are looking to reopen the middle and high school on February 1st, and we will also be offering students the option to go virtual, but it's not going to be like we did at the beginning of the year where it was a half-year commitment. We're going to offer 5-week increments, and now the board is going to have some discussion about it, and we'll answer your questions.
Okay, who'd like to begin with questions? Okay, I'll begin. On Monday of next week, are we going to begin the alternate Mondays, or is that gonna, is that still being evaluated?
Mondays are gonna be reevaluated for the second half of the year.
Okay.
The January schedule is going to remain intact.
So we're full hybrid, 2 days a week for secondary, and the rest is virtual. And then, currently, teaching staff only, how many are out due to COVID and quarantine reasons?
The list keeps growing and changing. I don't have the exact number, but I would say right now approximately 5 or 6 instructional staff. 5 to 6.
5 to 6, okay. And the student attendance, not COVID, not quarantine COVID-related absenteeism, you estimated it? I know we're just back Monday, but
Overall, this week at the secondary program, we're looking at about 15%. I'm gonna verify that tomorrow and get that to the board by Friday.
okay, great. So in the event that, I know we're going to be full return on February 1st for the secondary, in the event that some other power dictates that we are unable to do that, or we have to go fully virtual for a set amount of time, will we begin in February the alternating Mondays?
We're gonna be looking at, changing the configuration of the week. So-
Okay, so by our January 20th meeting, we'll have the February calendar, Plan A and Plan B if we need, okay.
Yes.
And then lastly, since the regencies have been canceled for January, we have a normal school schedule for the last week of January, the January 25th week,
It'll be a regular week of
a
school, yes.
regular cohort for the secondary.
Correct.
All right, so no change in busing, no change in meals or anything?
None of
Kids
this.
are in, okay. And I think those were my only questions. Anybody else?
Just to follow up to Jess, Mr. Manzo, you said about 15% of the students have been absent since break.
That-
What's the typical absentee rate in a non-COVID situation? Just on average, generally, each day.
I don't have that information. I don't wanna take a guess,
Okay.
considering that the high school and the middle school at this point, they're running by cohorts.
Right.
So it's not, I wouldn't be able to give an apple-to-apple comparison.
Fair enough.
Okay, so I'll look at that and share that with you on Friday.
Okay, thank you.
My follow-up to the 15% is, when you're saying 15% are absent, you're just talking about absent from the classroom or absent from the roster? Because kids are in school and kids are home, are we counting them as,
I'm talking about in school,
when cohort 1 was in school Tuesday, Wednesday, it was about 15%.
right? And then
And how many, so of the kids who are home at the secondary level, right, cohort 2's home and they're supposed to be live streaming in,
Correct.
that's another 15% who aren't probably showing up?
That's what I have to look at.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in,
And the
because if
other
the kids
piece
aren't
is-
coming, if the kids aren't signing in on the live stream and also not coming to school, that's a concern as well. If absenteeism
Right.
is on the
It's
rise.
two different numbers that we have to look at, correct. The virtual students that are live streaming and the kids that are actually present in the building.
So we're not taking it as one whole attendance, it's two separate groups being.
I think we need to look at both separate
Right, and but also both together.
and both together, correct.
And can we just get a comparison to last year this week?
That's
Just to
why-
give us a number, like, so we can see if, is attendance poor because we got this kind of cohort flipping back and forth system?
That's why I'll get back to you on Friday once I
That's
have
fine.
attendance for both cohorts, and then I can tell you, well, this is what it looked like for this week in comparison to last year, because now I have the total attendance for the entire student population.
And how was the first quarter grades? Were they significantly different from the years past? Were we have more failures?
We saw there was a 4% drop
Failures?
in failures.
Less failures?
No, more failures, I
More
apologize, 4% more failures.
Now, Mr. Dolan, you said before we're looking at February 1st. What do you mean by looking at February 1st? We're going back February
I'm
1st
mortified, one
and
second.
maybe something horrible might happen and we won't be able to.
No, I'm mortified enough because, and you get nervous, and I got a little choked up because, and I'm gonna say it, I wasn't gonna say this, but when I first met Harold Cooley, I wasn't quite sure what to make. He's kind of like the strong silent type. And the first time I went down and I said, Coach, can I congratulate the team? He kind of looked at me and didn't really say much, but I congratulated the team. And the second year I went, I felt like I made varsity because he said, hey, Mr. Dolan, you want to say a couple words to the girls? And, you know, so I was mortified when I was saying Harold, but it came out the wrong way. So I think though you guys got to know me over the years, we're open in February 1st unless we're told we can't. We're looking at it because we want to say this as nicely as possible. This is a very, very tough time. It's a very emotional time. We need to move forward. We want to give options so that people, we have to look at a number of things because we have to see how many people go virtual because we may have to make adjustments to make sure we can take care of both populations because you alluded to it, the ones that aren't in front of us. It's a little harder to keep track of them. But if I said we're looking at February 1st, the only thing that's going to stop us is if the number or somebody else, and one of the things I'm proud of, we've had some heated discussions. This board has had some very, very heated discussions and passionate discussions. But we have a plan for every situation. We can pivot on a dime, but our goal is to get our kids back in school. And we have the barriers ordered, we're starting to put desks in, we are looking to open on February 1st, okay? I didn't mean that to-
What the looking?
It's a poor choice of words, okay? It makes sense.
So we're an outlier because we're gonna want to bring our secondary kids back,
well,
right?
I'd like to
But we're not the only ones in the county.
No, there are several that are already open.
Did they get permission from the state? We do not need permission from the state, right? Only if our numbers are up, right? And they tell us? How does that work?
Well, when you say it, again, it's tricky. When you say permission from the state, at one point they told us if you're at 9%, you had to shut down. Now it's the hospitalization rate, 9%. No, you don't get, you heard the governor say it. It's a local decision. The governor said it 2 days ago.
All
It's
right,
a
thank you.
local decision. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Are we gonna do new and old business later as well? Or is this the whole thing?
It's up to you, do you?
I wanted to say something
Well,
about, I wanted to say something about
We could stay
Mr. Cooley,
on
that's all.
Yeah, we could stay on this topic and then we could go to other topics. But Joanne? No comment? Okay. Chris, any further comment?
Yeah, just to Dr. Bells and Mr. Manzo, if, right now, if an elementary kid tests positive, it's easy that class quarantines. How are you gonna handle a high school, middle school kid, when and if, God forbid, but it may happen, test positive? What will be the protocols to determine if we need to shut down, quarantines? How will that be handled?
Well, the protocols will stay the same that we're using now. I mean, we have had some students that test positive. So we do contact tracing within the building using the administration. And we go through a whole list of different types of questions. Did they have their masks on? How far apart were they? Were the doors open? Were the windows open? And we make those judgments on an individual basis, period by period, we would do it.
Okay, you've been doing that since September, whenever we've had a positive, is that
Yes.
correct? Same protocol?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So, one last thing, I'm sorry. Attendance, we know, we can assume attendance has not been as good as last year. I think we now know that first quarter grades were not as good as they were last year. We've already talked about nutrition, that we've had a drop off in the meals that we served compared to last year. Like, these are concerns that we should have for the kids who are in those situations. We also know that the hybrid learning and the live streaming is not good for many students who are struggling. We also have kids at the upper, in the upper classes, right? The AP class, the honors classes, not every one of them is successful as they have been face-to-face instruction. There are a lot of reasons you have to balance, like I've been saying since August, we have to balance the risk. There are risks to not opening. And everyone knows where I stand. I'm full in February 1st. But I just want to make sure that we understand there's a lot of other factors that go into that.
No, nothing?
No, I'm done.
No?
That's it.
Okay, and just to be clear, that since the schedule's changed slightly for the half-term, the half-year classes at the secondary level, some of the kids will be changing. If there are classroom changes due to capacity or what, are the schedules gonna be reworked? The kids find out when they come in on the first? How is that gonna be communicated
Any changes should be reflected on the schedules.
on their schedule?
Correct.
So, and any larger classes are being relocated, or we're just putting up additional barriers? How is that being handled?
Classes that needed to be relocated have already been relocated,
Okay, great.
and that should be reflected on the schedules.
Okay, and it was also brought up by, of course, I am the parent of a senior, in addition to being on the board. The parents of seniors really want the kids back in school, who want to be in school full-time. And in the event that February 1st, we cannot bring everyone back for whatever reason, can we revisit the idea of bringing in the sixth graders and the seniors as a kind of a test, a stress test for the secondary, or do we want to just keep status quo as our plan B? Like, would that be a type of discussion we could have at our next board meeting if the numbers don't plateau, which is what Governor Cuomo said. If we can have our region's numbers plateau, we can keep moving, towards better, accommodations for the students.
I think, as I said before, the team has worked very hard. I think we have multiple options in the plan. So we will, as Bill said, we're balancing not being in school there are tremendous risks there. COVID, of course, presents risks also. We want the safety of our students, faculty, and staff at the utmost. And if we look at it and say, look, we can't have that many, priority would absolutely be given to the seniors, and I think the sixth graders, and we would look to do, we can do, we'll do, I think the safest thing, we'll do as much as we can as long as it's safe. We want as many kids in school as possible, and you hate to have to prioritize, but I think, at this point, it's easy to say the seniors are the top priority, and then the sixth graders foundationally at the middle school. So the simple answer to that is, yes, we can adjust. If we're told we can't get everybody, then we would look seniors and sixth graders.
Great, thank you. Before we go on to public comment, does anybody else have anything regarding reopening secondary? No? Any other new or old?
I just wanted to say something about Mr. Cooley. I always thanked him because I have, just to tell you what a great guy he was. If not for him, I would not have been at my youngest birth, and I probably wouldn't be married anymore, because he was able to get me to my house so I could get my car, so I could get up to Stony Brook for my son's birth, and I made it by about a minute. And I was getting divorced and the whole thing if I didn't get there. So I always, every year I would see him and I would always say, hey, thanks, man. It's that you driving me to go get my car, and he didn't have to do it. He said, hey, hop in, I'll give you a ride. And he got me over to my house to get my car, and the rest is thankfully worked out. But that's the kind of guy he was. He's just do anything for anybody to make your life a little bit better. And that's pretty much everybody in this town. So he was just a leader of that, and he shows that to a lot of kids, and I think that's great stuff.
I had him as a teacher. I'm pretty
I
old.
did too.
I'm pretty old, and he made an impact on every student that he taught. Everyone remembered Mr. Cooley. So,
On the Corvette, his red Corvette in the parking lot, you always knew Mr. Cooley was around.
Mr. Cooley was cool. So, okay, so then we have a few questions specific for tonight's meeting. Christine Capolino Will barriers be put in the cafeteria? Will extra space be used for lunch? Could lunch be broken into 2 sessions while 1 session eats the other in class area? Will there be an adjustment to the bell schedule, and how will desks be fit in the rooms with appropriate spacing?
Barriers have been ordered for the high school and middle school. In terms of extra space, I believe we'll be using the cafeteria and the auxiliary gym at the middle school. I'm trying to remember now, but at the high school, we already are using the auxiliary gym. So we do have, spatially, we're okay. In terms of, we wouldn't have to break lunch into 2 sessions because we can, space the kids out. The adjusting the bell schedule is something that, has been thrown around a lot, but it really doesn't help, because if you let some kids out and they back up, then they're gonna back up in the hall, they back up in the classroom. After weighing all of this, keeping them moving, that's the big thing, don't hang around. When you change the bell schedule, they will back up trying to get into the other classes. How will the desks fit in the rooms with appropriate spacing? I think we've said it before at meetings, I know Mr. Clark has mentioned it. The 6 foot is a recommendation, and, once we put the barriers in there, it won't be a full 6 feet, but, we will, it'll be appropriate, to the guidelines.
Okay, and then Melissa Smith, can a student without an IEP or 504 plan come to school 4 days a week? I'm guessing she means a secondary.
Presently, that's not happening, but as we've said, we're looking to change that February 1st.
What's with the looking?
Okay, Kristen Hilbert, if schools cannot reopen full-time for all secondary at this time, would you be possible for one cohort to attend every other Monday? The virtual Mondays do not seem to be effective for the students, and they will have missed out on nearly 20% of their instruction time if this continues for the rest of the school year. I think we already.
We're looking to make changes on the Monday.
Okay, and in February, in the event that we are not back full in.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just again to reiterate, you're gonna send out instructions on the process to opt into virtual for 5 weeks, beginning February 1st.
Yes,
So that's gonna go out to secondary
yes.
families. The final question is Frank Dima, and it actually is a different topic. So, Mr. Dima asked about the Redmond mascot. My question is simply this: if the school was to be newly built from the ground up today, would you have included an Indian head as part of the school's facade and as a mascot to represent the school, given our name is the Redmond? In my opinion, that is the simple standard that should be applied in this matter. Mr. Dima, I respect your question, and again, right now, our focus is on the health and well-being of the students. We have had the Redmond discussion many times, and we will address that, but right now, our number one concern is about the health and safety and bringing the kids back in. So again, we'll be discussing that at a future board meeting.
I'm sorry, it was, I'm sorry.
Bless you.
I don't have to worry. Was Mr. Dima was he at the meeting with,
I think
High school?
he was the
At
one
the
that sent us the
auditorium?
email, yeah, I think so.
and he was the one who read that and sent that email?
Sent the email to us.
I thought it was the same person, I wasn't sure.
Yes.
I think it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Bless you. Okay, any other topics of discussion? All right. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
We're not gonna do old business and new business?
I thought we did already. Okay, what would you like to bring?
Well, I have a question, for, oh gee, I'm getting Paul. No, not Paul. Later.
Just point.
Steve.
Come on, Steve, I know, Steve.
Mr. Harrison, he's
Going
going.
back to the lunches again, lunches are free and the government is paying it, right?
Yes.
Okay, everybody gets a free lunch 5 days a week if they're in school, right?
Well, we also have the remote lunches, which we're not doing a lot of, but we're still continuing.
Right, so, but we're still paying the company, right?
Yes.
to make those lunches.
That's correct.
And where are we getting the money to pay the company since we're not getting any money from the kids?
Well, the reimbursement we're getting for the lunches being served is higher than it has been in the past because of the situation we're in.
Right,
So that'll partially fund, if not fully fund, the lunches being served.
okay.
Okay, we're gonna be doing an analysis very shortly about the fund balance of the cafeteria fund.
Mhm.
So I'll be able to update the board specifically where we stand. Going into this year, we did have a surplus from previous years.
Okay,
So
good.
if, for some reason, we're not making sufficient money on the state aid reimbursement, that additional surplus from prior years will go to offset some of that.
Okay, good. I also have a question on the solar panels. I know you're not gonna come up with an answer tonight, but can we get an answer in the future, how much electricity we're saving, the amount? You could start at Connecticut and go down, right? Each school is up and running with their solar panels.
Only Connecticut at this time is up and running.
Why aren't the other schools running?
We were waiting on the electric companies and to do their part of it. I have to get an update, I haven't
It's
received
a
an update.
final inspection that needs to take place, right?
Right, and that hasn't happened yet, so the other buildings with solar are not up and running.
No, okay, but Connecticut's been running for a while, right?
Yeah, and last time I remember checking on, it's about a $45,000 savings.
$45,000 already, good, okay, good, thank you.
But then Steve, as per our contract, we're not paying for that equipment yet until we start realizing the savings, correct?
We're paying interest.
No, actually, we are making payments based upon the progress of the construction. So
Okay.
we have made payments on those projects.
But as far as the Honeywell project, right, we weren't supposed to start paying that off until we started realizing the savings from that equipment,
Well, the savings and the payoff is based upon an 18-year payback.
okay?
So we are making scheduled payments based upon the contract, based upon the progress in the construction.
Okay,
So over the 18-year period, there'll be a break-even payback. But that'll come over time.
It's not really a payback, it's a cost avoidance, so we're saving the money that we're not paying.
Right.
So, okay, so just so to reiterate that, what that financial instrument was. Okay, any other old business, new business? No? Okay, just a reminder, the next board meeting will be on January 20th at 8 p.m.